Welcome in, everybody. It's on Texas Football Postgame Show. I'm Bobby Burton. Alongside here, Rod Babers and Brian Robison. Guys, two defensive players. I got to say that before we get going. Sponsored by Flight by Yingling. Appreciate them coming along for the postgame this year on Texas Football. Guys, I'll kick it off. Rod B, you and Brian. You got to be smiling a little bit about the shutout, 52-0. I know you guys. When Wardell Mack came down with that last-second interception, you're like, yes. It mattered to you two, did it not? Rod, you go first, buddy.
Yeah, I was for sure that Jay Norvell was going to take, them points if it came down to it. He was. Nobody wants to be shut out, man, any level of football. And I don't care if you're in middle school, high school, college, or pro. You get a shutout, man, that's really impressive. That's a hell of a statement. It's a team statement, but mostly it is props to the defense. So that was a hell of a performance, man. Honestly, it wasn't just that it was a shutout. They pretty much suffocated that offense, B-Rob, until, honestly, that was the only sustained drive they had was that last drive. And then you end up getting the interception at the end.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I was just sitting here watching that last play, and I'm like, golly, they're going to give up a shutout. And because I've been there, Rod, you've been there. You get that shutout, and then all of a sudden you get the young guys in, they score, and it's like, man, like you almost feel like you lost. And then for him to get that interception the way he did, man, I felt like I was playing again. So, but yeah, you're right, man. It was the way the defense got that shutout, man. It was a multitude of ways. I love the way that defense flew around today. All offseason, we've heard about how angry this football team is, and defense showed that today.
I tell you what, you look at everything, and we talked about a lot of different things this preseason, right? And all offseason, was this defense going to be able to stand up to the power run? Well, hey, Colorado State had a 100-yard rusher today, so it wasn't perfect, right? But I thought the Longhorns forced them into some situations really good on third down again this year, by the way. We'll talk a little bit about that. Guys, in this postgame, we're going to talk about a few different things. Quinn Ewers and what y'all thought of his performance. The wide receivers, that was a subplot all offseason. Man, I'll go out and say it. Not only did Isaiah Bond look good and Matthew Golden and his rapport with Quinn Ewers look good, but I know you guys saw number 5, Ryan Wingo, in that fourth quarter. And you said, ooh, that looked different. Did it not?
Yeah, no, and I say this, Bobby. I think you go look at just the stats alone. I think this may be a kind of a theme, and maybe this is a microcosm of what we're going to see going forward. So the leading, just among wide receivers, the leading receiver in receptions was Isaiah Bond. If you look at who led you in yards, I believe it was Ryan Wingo. Who led you in touchdowns? Matthew Golden. And who led you in yards per reception? Oh yeah, don't worry. That was Jonte Cook. He took care of it. Everybody had kind of a different role they played. I think you're that deep where you may get that kind of season overall where it's a different player leading you in different categories, a different leading receiver from game to game, and that's exciting. That gets me titillated as a fan, thinking, and a defense doesn't know who to prepare for. And they have no idea who you're going to feature that week or that game, and it could be any number of 4 or 5 guys potentially.
I agree with you, Brian. I got to ask you, what did you think of the Texas receiving core? You have similar thoughts to Rod there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even add one more, nuance to that. You look even in the red zone, Matthew Golden seemed to be the guy that they wanted to get the ball to in the red zone. So could that be a reoccurring theme as we move forward as well? So I agree 100% with everything Rob Baber said there. I think you're going to see a plethora of wide receivers. We talked about it just the other morning about how everybody's excited to see that we've got 6 deep on this Texas football team. And, we're starting to see maybe it even goes even deeper than that. We didn't get to see as much as Ryan Niblett today, but we saw some instances where they were trying to get him the ball. So could they be 7 deep, 6 deep for sure? At the end of the day, they've got a plethora of receivers. And to me, this is one of those deals where you see a team lose top-end talent, and it's like, well, how are you going to replace that top-end talent? Well, for me, when I look at this Texas football team, we call it by committee, right? You do it by committee. When you've got 6 guys like this, you can replace what you lost last year with that.
Yes. I tell you what, I look at right now for both of y'all, 11 different folks caught passes, 11 different guys, 7 receivers, 3 tight ends, the running back, Jaden Blue as well, Trey Wisner. I mean, look, they went after it a little bit in that regard to y'all's talking about the receivers. I did also want to mention, what did y'all think of the interior on the defensive line? Because we talked about that. Texans did not get any sacks today that I recall, but they did play behind the line of scrimmage a little bit, in my opinion, enough, especially in the run game, 3rd and shorts. Texas kind of suffocated them. All right, I've got to ask you, I'm going to say this first. We want to say thank you to our sponsor. That sponsor is Flight. It's the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 grams of carbs per drink. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Ewing. We appreciate them sponsoring On Texas Football. Guys, I tell you, another play that caught my attention. We talked all season about Amari Niblack and his ability to maybe do some stuff down the field. What'd you think of Gunnar Helms' nifty move in the first half? That was pretty good for a tight end. It set up Texas's first big score. What'd y'all think there?
I think the tight end position, I said it after we went to see practice the first time. I'll admit I underrated it. They were making plays in practice, and I said at the time that position might be overlooked this year in terms of how impactful it could be. And then we heard the Jeff Banks quote about Juan Davis. And I said, Juan Davis played a lot more in this game than I thought I'd see, B-Rob. I thought Juan Davis played a lot. Now, I don't know how many receptions he had, but if you go watch back in terms of just plays and reps, I saw a lot of Juan Davis out there. So I'm wondering, they believe they got 3 different guys they can use at the tight end position in different ways, because I think they all offer something different. Amari Niblack, we know about him stretching the field. Gunnar Helm probably is your best well-rounded all-around tight end. But I like them throwing Juan Davis out there. And I think at the end of the season, Jordan Washington could be a guy that, they could potentially get some reps from to a tight end. Sark's going to play 12 personnel, guys. The second most utilized personnel group behind 11 personnel. He's going to play it at least 35% of the time. So there's a lot of reps for those tight ends still, that even without JT Sanders.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the plethora of receivers that Texas has on this football team that we do forget about the tight end position. We forget that Jatavion Sanders was such a huge, integral part of this offense last year that maybe this is something with Sark's offense. You saw it at Alabama. The tight end is utilized in this offense quite often. So he's not going to put an offense out there without a tight end. And we talk about Amari Niblack. You talk about Gunnar Helm, but Juan Davis does seem to be the guy that kind of gets forgotten there. But we also forget that Gunnar Helm, when he got his opportunities last year, he made some splash plays. Like, it wasn't all the time, and it wasn't one of those deals where we, left the field being like, oh, man, did you see Gunnar Helm? But it was enough to where it was like, oh, I remember last year he made some big plays. And so now he's getting his opportunity. He's going to get his hands on the ball. You've got Niblack in there. You know what he brings to the table as a pass-catching tight end. And now you've got Juan Davis in there, which Quinn Ewers has been really high on all offseason. So if your quarterback's saying that about somebody, there's got to be something to it, right?
Yep. No doubt.
There does, and they're going to use the tight end. To your point, Brian, that's what Sark does. It just simply is who he is. I will say this: I ran into Gunnar's dad in the pregame. He was at the tailgate. He stopped by to say hello. He's excited about this season. He thinks his son's ready to go. Thinks the team's ready to go. Felt like they had a good off-season workout, And parents, I want to say this: parents kind of know stuff like that. You know what I mean? They get a feel for what their kids telling them behind the scenes, and that was nice to hear from Blake Helm. Good family. They're going to be up at Michigan, by the way, coming next week. But we're sitting here talking post-game. Longhorns win 52-0. A big first game of the 2024 season. Let me ask you this, Brian. I'm going to start with you in this question. What is this the type of win you wanted Texas to have? Is this the type of win that was so dominating that it maybe sets up and shows Texas and their own team what they're even capable of? Because I don't know that anybody picked them to win 52-9. I had like 42-13 or 42-17. Was this that kind of step on your throat moment? Because I tell you what, when you talked to us on Friday on Coffee and Football, you talked about keeping them. When you get a team down, you don't play down to them. You keep your foot on their throat. Bob Shipley said the same thing on Friday afternoon as well, or Saturday morning. What do you think about that? Is this the type of game indicative of a team that is in a program that is growing?
Well, I'll tell you what I thought about this game. Number one, all offseason, everybody's talked about this offense, right? I was impressed with the defense today. And it's easy to say that after a shutout, but I'll tell you why I was impressed. I was impressed, number one, because I felt like the interior guys up front allowed nothing. Like, I mean, here's the deal. I know you're going to look at the stats and you're going to say, oh, well, they gave up 100 yards rushing. Well, they gave up to a 100-yard rusher. That 100-yard rusher had 25 carries. They had 118 yards on 32 carries. Okay. So they came in with the idea of they were going to test the interior up front as well. Everybody's going to have that question. Does Texas have the interior up front to hold up like they did last year? So they're going to test them. Well, guess what? If you're going to run the ball that much on this Texas defense with the offense that they have, I'm just going to say it right now, good luck. Good luck. But I was impressed with the way they came out there. They stood out up front. The second thing I was impressed with was how aggressive those guys played on defense. It just looked like they had some camaraderie. They got a feel for each other. You look at David Benda and Anthony Hill, the way they were flying around. They had gaps that they were able to shoot through and make tackles in the backfield without anybody touching them. I mean, that says, once again, a lot about your guys up front. When they're eating one blocker, two blockers at a time, and the linebackers are just running free into the backfield, it's hard for any offense to do that. And then defensively in the secondary, I thought they played much tighter coverage this year than they did last year. I think I only saw one play where they allowed a receiver to get back behind them, and that was actually the play that Jahdae Barron had the interception.
Yeah, it was.
You know, so to me, I felt like this defense seemed to be a lot more in tune. I feel like there's a lot more cohesiveness amongst all 11 of them. But then what was impressive to me was how the second team got in there and some of the third team guys, and there was no letdown. There was no let up. You still see guys out there, you know, playing blocks, and they're playing their gaps, staying outside, making sure the blocks that there's no mistakes. And normally that's what you see when you see young guys get in there. You start seeing little mistakes that cause you to lose that shutout, and I didn't see that today.
No, man, I think you hit the nail on the head there about the running game, right? Because a lot of Longhorn fans going to freak out about the running game, B-Rob. But to your point, Texas took away their identity on offense. They took away their strength. And I think it was intentional. Like, yeah, they want to beat us running the ball. Last year, they were 120th and 125th in the country running the football. That ain't what they do. That's not their comfort zone. That ain't their expertise. And so essentially, they were almost relegated to being forced to have to run the football because Texas really did play tighter coverage. I know some Longhorn fans are upset that Texas didn't get more pressure. And honestly, B-Rob, I want to get your thoughts about it. When you play against a team that's getting rid of the football that quickly, and they're not holding on to the football, they don't want to throw the football downfield, and we didn't see a lot of that from Colorado State, you're not going to get there when he's throwing the ball in 2.3, 2.4 seconds. It just ain't going to happen. But the tighter coverage on the back end, I think to me, and what we've seen, they played a little bit more bump and run coverage. I think they were a little bit more aggressive on the field and the boundary side. And I can't say enough about that Jahdae Barron interception, guys. That was an NFL play. They call it robbing the post. It ain't easy to do. You got to have extremely high football IQ to see it. The game has to be moving really slow for you, like Neo in the Matrix. But he saw it. He saw it, and he went to rob the post on the opposite side of the field. We'll break it down later on this week in detail, but that is something that just shows you, to your point, B-Rob, about how in tune this defense is, right? He knows exactly what his responsibilities are, where he's able to navigate, where he has freedom within the defense and when he can do it. And I think that play showed me a lot of the football IQ that Jahdae Barron has. And I think it's something you see more and more. It's more and more prevalent all throughout that defense at every level.
You're looking at the stats here as well, guys, and just a big picture. 545 yards of total offense for the Longhorns, 192 for Colorado State. That is indicative of a beatdown. That's just doubling them up, almost tripling them up at some level. The red zone for the Longhorns today, guys. That was a big bugaboo all offseason. We talked about it last year. Can't have Bert Auburn attempting 35 field goals. Again, today they went 7 for 7 in the red zone, but really 6 of 7 from a touchdown perspective. They did have the one. I'm sorry, there's a dog barking over here. They did have the one interception from Quinn Ewers, but that wasn't in the red zone at this point. And so you look at it, good effort by Texas in the red zone all the way around today in that effort as well. And Colorado State didn't get to the red zone until a minute left in the game. That speaks it to it too. What did you think about that, Rod?
No, I thought they did a great job. I think that was the interception. I think it was on the 25-yard line or something like that from Quinn. And honestly, I think that was probably a little bit more on Quinn. There was, Isaiah Bond was open on the corner route, held on to the ball a little bit too long, and even had a secondary guy coming, Amari Knoblack. He just kind of held on to it too long. But other than that, like I said, that was outside the red zone. And the penalty by Jake Majors, I think, at one point, and that's why they had to settle for a field goal. I mean, that was it. And that was early on in the game. Seems like they crystallized their focus in the red zone. And I bet if I went back and looked at it, seems to me that I bet I can identify some tendencies, some trends that Sark has tweaked from the offseason in the red zone. I'm sure he went down a rabbit hole, considering it was unacceptable for Texas, the talent level they had, to be 120th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. So just think, if they're even average there, guys, if they're even average, you're talking about a team last year that averaged over 35 points per game. They can get close to 40 points per game, even if they're just an average team in the red zone. And you could get better than average this year if they continue on this trend. That won't be the case versus Michigan, but it just shows you at least they've cleaned up some of the self-inflicted wounds that Sark talked about in the red zone. One of them was Jake Majors, but that was the only one we really saw. And like I said, the interception was outside the red zone.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another little nuance that I noticed today a little bit is last year Texas was really not that good on like third and short situations. And so for me, seeing them convert some of these third and short situations, whether it be running the ball, whether it be on short passes, things like that, they were able to convert a lot of those because it seemed like when they got in shorter yard situations, for whatever reason, they just couldn't finish it out, which caused a lot of issues down in the red zone as well because it becomes short yard situations. I mean, how many times did you see them, inside the 5-yard line, they just couldn't seem to punch it in the end zone. So those are those same situations that you see. Now, granted, here's the deal. You got to take this win with a grain of salt, right? It is Colorado State. It is first game of the year. They probably had some jitters coming into Derrick Carey Rowan Memorial Stadium, everything else. So next week's really going to be the test because Michigan's going to come up with a big physical offensive line, big physical defensive line. That's going to be the real test. But the whole point of this game is to see what you need to work on. And I feel like there are other things that Texas needs to work on after seeing this game compared to correcting some of the things that they had going on last year.
I got a little bit of breaking news here for people interested. I know we've been talking about the post game here with the Longhorns and Colorado State, but I think this is worthwhile mentioning. Davis Warren is going to be the quarterback at Michigan this year. He is starting against Fresno State. That is interesting. He only attempted 5 passes a year ago. They thought it was going to be a young man out of Rockwall, Ashen Orji, as the starter, or Jack Tuttle. But instead, it's Davis Warren. This is a guy that only attempted 5 passes. I know we're talking Longhorn football. Appreciate it. But I want to mention that because they're playing Fresno State, and we will apparently see Davis Warren next week as a starter. All right. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Quinn Ewers and what y'all saw year over, not just in this game, maybe, but year over year. Y'all have seen him now play two straight years. This is the 3rd year as a starter. Any improvement, any particular notes that y'all took about Quinn and maybe what he did or didn't do? Pretty good stat line for the day for him. Finishes 20 of 27, 260 plus 3 TDs. That one ill-advised interception, but pretty good stat line overall. Any thoughts from you, Brian, on this one?
I think for me, though, the one thing I did not get to see from Quinn today was the deep ball. I wanted to see some of the deep ball. I wanted to see how he's matured in that process as far as maybe getting some more completions, giving his guys opportunity at 50-50 balls. But here's the other thing, too. If you don't have to do that and you don't have to stretch the field, I don't care if you do it or not. And today, what you saw with Quinn was he was easily able to find the open receivers. I mean, you look at some of the passes he completed, there wasn't a guy within, 10 yards of him, 5 yards of him. And those are easy completions. And to me, that comes down to two things. That comes down to your receivers running incredible routes. That are three things, really. Receivers running incredible routes, great play calling, and your quarterback getting your eyes on that guy extremely fast before anybody can realize they're open. So to me, I think the way Quinn is going through his progressions, we've seen it increase year after year after year. Okay, and I've got a little note here, going back to what we talked about on the red zone, and it was that second touchdown that Texas scored. I literally have red zone route, quarterback throw, holy crap. And the reason I wrote that was, if you remember last year and the year before, Xavier Worthy used to run that kind of quick in hitch route type deal, and then he would back it back out. Well, what you saw today was it was basically the same play, but they put two receivers over there and they just ran one out and one in on a quick slant. But for Quinn to be able to make that throw on that quick out into the flat in the over a defender to where only his receiver can catch the ball and put it right on the money. I mean, dude, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the second touchdown of the game for Texas, and you will see exactly what I'm saying. That was a heck of a throw.
Yeah, I love that throw, and I know exactly it was to Matthew Golden, right, Rod? Yep. Is that the one he's talking about? Yeah, yep. It's like the DB didn't even know the ball was coming. It was such a beautiful play. Yeah. No, Rod, why doesn't the DB turn around there? Just not ready for it because it's such a quick throw.
I think that goes to what B. Rob said about the route running. The route running, I think, was exceptional. I go back to the Isaiah Bond touchdown where he sets up the DB with the hard. You saw me, bro? Inside release. And as a DB in the red zone, everything is happening so fast. If you go hard inside, I gotta go. It's the red zone, baby. It's everything happening quick. I gotta go defend that slant, and then he just brought it back out after he stacked that DB. DB tried to go underneath him, and then he went to the corner route. I'm sure that it was just a natural call to corner route, but you can see the receiver savvy enough to set that DB up, create that space, create a bigger window for Quinn, and Quinn puts the ball in the money. But I agree with B-Rob, man. He's right about it. It's now exceptional route running with the receivers, in addition to Quinn, who can we didn't see it on the deep ball, but he can make any throw on the football field. And he's at his best, though, with that short intermediate area.
Yes.
That's elite. I mean, the timing and when the ball's coming out in rhythm for him. And I think it's something Sark's paying attention to, and it's something that I predicted you would see all season, but I think we saw it early on in this game. Go check the early game, early down pass rate. Because my prediction is, with the running back situation being what it is, and until Sark can really have trust that all the running backs can fulfill all the roles that he initially envisioned with a CJ Baxter and everything before all the injuries hit the running back room. Right now, just give it to Quinn. Give a little bit more to Quinn, right? Early down. That can be screen game. That can be the quick game, the RPO game. He's a third-year starting quarterback in this system. Sark can now have communication with him through the headset prior to the snap for obviously until that 15-second cutoff. You got an elite group of wide receivers, one of the best in the country, and 4 or 5 starters returning on the offensive line. Give it to Quinn. And I think he did. I think the early down, early game pass rate, that's like the first half, was around 58%, if I remember correctly, like the first 5 drives. So Sark, I think that's going to be the case all year, guys. Your early down, early game pass rate is going to be hovering around 58, 60%. Now, for the game, that'll even out because if you get a lead and Sark will have balance throughout the game. But for the most part, put the game in Quinn's hands early on until you can figure out how much you can trust the run game and the running back position. And now, Longhorn fans, because we like complaining about stuff, no victory is perfect. We're going to find something to complain about now. All right, we're going to talk about the push on the offensive line. Or they get enough push for the running game. Well, until you can trust that and trust the depth of the running back position. Love what I saw, by the way, by Jerry Gibson today. Love that. I think give it to Quinn. Put the game and put the game plan in Quinn's hands. And I think they did more of that today. So watch out for that throughout the season because I think Sark trusts him to be able to handle it.
I felt like Quinn looked, to y'all's point, Rod, you just mentioned this. he's elite in that short and mid-range game. I mean, he just puts it on the money.
Yep.
And even like there was one that Jaden Blue dropped. Now I'm not talking about the one that was a little bit behind him, but in the flat, he just dropped it.
Yeah.
But closer, and then Sark came right back to that same type of play.
Lead block at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, that's Sark saying, no, you're going to catch this ball, dude.
I love that play.
I want to add a little bit more on Quinn too, and that it is the weight. There's a lot of weight on a player playing quarterback at Texas. It truly is, and I think that he's lived in a fishbowl a little bit ever since he was supposed to be the guy right at South Lake. Goes to Ohio State, comes back to Texas. I think this is his year to maybe take a step up. He did take a sack today, had one interception, but 20 of 27, almost completing 75% of his passes, 3 TDs, 1 interception, made some nice throws on third down, I thought, and nice decisions, quick decisions on third down as well that Brian was talking about, that third and medium range, 3, 4, and 5, 6 yards. Texas did not have a lot of problem with that, whether that's because the receivers are open or Quinn's decisions and or the play calling. We'll see what really mets out of that. But it takes execution by all parties to make that happen, and that's what happened for Texas today. All right, let's talk about the running backs. I like doing this, going kind of position by position. Rod, you like what you saw of Jarrett Gibson? I'll tell you what I saw of the Texas running game and them as receivers was this. Sark said, y'all are out of the game after the third quarter. We're not letting or Jaden Blue get injured before we go up to Michigan. What did you think?
After Jaden Blue went down with that cramp or whatever, and it was like, nah, thank you, Jaden. You're done. You're done. You're done for the evening. Everybody give Jaden a round of applause. I agree. It was like, no, we're good. But no, Jarrett Gibson, I got to tell you, man, I love what I saw from this young man, just as a runner overall. The reason that he obviously will have, some growing pains, I think mostly will come from pass protection, learning that kind of stuff, and learning maybe ball security for a young player, maybe something like that. But in terms of being a runner, oh man, you hand this dude the rock, he can run the rock. Ain't no question about it. So I think he's going to be a guy that by the end of the season will earn the trust of the coaches. I love the fact they didn't kill the pony package. The pony package is still alive and well, because we saw it today, and it's still probably your most effective personnel grouping. And I love the fact that, a guy like Ryan Niblett, we saw Belton Gardner out there today too. So I think the running back position, and I said this, we should just trust that room and the culture in that room. It's proven time and time again, where you're talking about historically with the guys who got statues at Texas, or whether you're talking about recently with Texas having multiple running backs drafted in the last 2 drafts and the coaches they've had there. There's something special in that room. It's just so not a lot of rooms could deal with losing a CJ Baxter and then losing a Christian Clark. That room, I think we should have trusted it. I think it's going to be just fine.
Well, and I would say this, just to literally piggyback off of what you're saying, there's a reason why 4- and 5-star running backs are still committing to the University of Texas, right? That doesn't happen everywhere. Most of the time, if there's 3 or 4 of those guys are like, man, I got to go somewhere else. I got to go get that burn somewhere else, right? These guys are saying, nah, I'll go there. Jaden Blue said, I'll go there. I'll wait my turn, and now he's getting his opportunity. And there's a reason for that. There is a culture within the culture, right? So we talk about culture all the time at college football, and there is a culture in that running back within the culture of that team. Yep. And I think really and truly, you could date that as far back as you want to go, but really and truly, when you look at recency here, I think a lot of that starts with Bijan and Roshan. I think those 2 guys kind of brought that culture back into that room, a few years ago. And now it's become a pride deal for that running back room, is that they are going to be the best running back, the most complete running back room in the country. They're going to have 4 or 5 deep. That way, if a guy goes down, we pick up where we left off type deal. And that is impressive to see that I guess you could probably say 5 years. You could make the argument that they've had one of the best running back rooms in the country.
I agree.
Look, the NFL agrees with you.
Yeah.
Right? That's about as good a stamp of approval as you can get, right? And Tashard Choice has been really, really good there for the Longhorns as well.
Can I say something about Jaden Blue real quick at running back, just real quick?
Absolutely, dude.
I don't know if we think he's gonna get to 1,000 yards or not. I think he's gonna come really, really close. If he's not there, he'll be like at 900 something. He'll be right there on the cusp of it. I think in 13 games, what do you got to average around like 70, 78, 79 yards to be right there at 1,000? I shouldn't do math live on air because I'm not good. I get the point, right? So, but I went back and looked at it. Last 1,000-yard back to have at least 30 receptions. You got to go back to Eric Metcalf and Hodges Mitchell, and then Eric Metcalf before him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's rare. But if you look at how many targets did Jaden Blue have in this game? Didn't he have like 5, 6 targets, something like that? Jaden Blue is going to come really close to being a 1,000-yard rusher with at least 30 receptions. It doesn't happen very often. Like I said, my man Hodges Mitchell should get some love, but Eric Metcalf was that kind of guy. Jaden Blue's going to be in that realm. Yeah, 6 targets. Dude. Hey, man, get some underdog fantasy going, man. That's legit. I get win me some money. that's a high target rate for running back. He didn't even play that long. What did he play? 2.5 quarters?
I was going to say this. The one thing I do worry about with the running back room, because of how Jaden Blue is put together, because of how Trey Wisner is put together, is this a team that can run the ball 50 times in a game if they need to? That's going to be hard, and I say that because they just don't have that body type. You know what I mean? Now, manufacture it. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you could easily look at that, but I also look at this O-line group, and I look at the way they were able to block today. They were able to, really keep guys off of them until they got to the second level. Now, once you get to the second level, that's going to be the issue. Is like, are you going to be able to, make a guy miss and get up to the third level with the DBs and stuff like that? But I think the thing you see about, and I'll kind of go through it a little bit. You look at Jaden Blue, man, the guy's got some wiggle to him. He's got some speed. He can outrun guys and he can make guys miss. I mean, some of those runs he was squared up with guys and still was able to make them miss, which is where a defensive player wants to be. I don't want to have to chase you on an angle. I want to be squared up with you, and you square up a guy and you make 2 guys miss immediately back to back. I mean, that's kind of demoralizing for a defense. You look at Trey Wisner. He's not the biggest guy, but he probably let out some punishing blows on some of them DBs and linebackers as much as they were trying to give to him. So the toughness is there. And then going back to Rod's point, Jared Gibson. You look at some of the things that he was able to do as a freshman. Let me say that as a freshman. What he was able to do kind of reminds me a little bit of what C.J. Baxter was able to do last year as a freshman. So, I mean, I think these guys you're going to be able to run it. You could run it 50 times a game, but I don't see them having a feature back that's going to do it 25, 30 carries a game like a Bijan did. But you're going to see, 15 carries here, 15 carries there, 10 here, 5 here. You're going to see a plethora of running backs that I think are going to get their opportunity to carry.
All right, guys, before we go to Steve Sarkisian, he's got some press conference notes that we have for you. We'll hear live audio of that. I want to say thank you one more time to our sponsor of the postgame show. That is our friends over at Flight. It's the next generation of light beer. Only 95 calories, 4.2 grams of carbs. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience. We were serving it at today's tailgate with more taste. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yingling. Also, thanks to our friends over at Faust Distributing for hooking us up there. All right, guys, I want to play now. Matt, our producer, has some audio and maybe video, too, from Steve Sarkisian from the post-game presser.
The first thing I'd like to do is thank our fans, our students, our crowd. Students were there early. They awesome energy, great atmosphere, what you hope for, your opening game coming off of the season we had last year to kick off the season. I just thought the atmosphere was awesome. They were super engaged. That's always tough when you got a 2:30 kick in August 31st to hang in there the way they did. I thought that was great. I thought the first half of the game, we accomplished probably a lot of the things I was hoping we would. I think we played 51 different players in the first half. So from that aspect, the fact that we were able to play a lot of players early in the game and get involved in the game was huge. thought we did a nice job playing complementary football as a team. You know, when we're able to get, stop the fake punt, we're able to get a field goal out of that. Jaude's interception, we're able to get a touchdown off of that. We get the big punt return by Silas, we get a touchdown off of that. And although we didn't quite find our rhythm the way we would have loved in the first quarter, I thought the second quarter we started to find that rhythm. And then to come out of halftime and to continue to play that way throughout the third quarter in both sides of the ball was big. From a defensive standpoint, proud of our secondary, to really minimize the explosive plays. Those guys have been hearing about themselves all off season, and so them to come out and kind of shut down that passing game the way that they did was good. I thought the run game, we had a couple really good stops, and then just a few things got a little bit leaky, so we got to clean some things up there. But in the end, for me as a coach, the one thing that made me probably most proud, you get the first shutout in school history to start in a season opener since 2004. And what did it take for that to happen? A guy diving on a muff punt on our own 5-yard line to secure that, and then an interception by a true freshman in the back of the end zone. So that our guys all of them were playing for the entire ball game. As we say all the time, everybody's got a role on our team to contribute to the success of the team, and that definitely shined through today. So proud of the guys. We definitely, in all three phases, have things to work on to get better at as a team as we continue to forge forward, and we're going to need to. Obviously, we got a heck of a challenge next Saturday.
All right, that's good. Steve Sarkisian talking about the offense, defense, and then securing that shutout. I bet that's a 2014 that had Brian Robison on it.
That's what I was thinking.
I bet that was. Hey, we're going to talk about the secondary in a sec, Rod, and let you go over that. But I'll tell you one thing. He talked about that true freshman playing and making that catch in the back of the end zone. Nice interception by the way, in your first game as a Longhorn. That's going to be hard to top over the next 3 or 4 years, Wardell Mack. But I will say this. By my count, 13 true freshmen played today. And 7 played in the first half when the game was still in not in the balance, but you guys understand. 7 playing in the first half, that's a significant true freshman number. Indicative of a strong group. Rod, I'll go to the secondary now because that was one of the things Sark asked or talked about there. Obviously, you played in the Longhorn secondary. Nobody better to discuss it than you. What did you see of that group that was good, bad, what have you? Let us hear it.
Ooh, not a lot of bad. I mean, I don't know if I have much bad to give you, man. I'll start kind of individually. I thought Gavin Holmes, y'all know the play I'm talking about. I think it might have been, it was third down. He was playing bump and run coverage. They decided to throw it deep. I believe it was kind of a back shoulder fade, if you will, but his coverage was so sticky and so tight. Got the PBU, and there was just no window to throw the football to. And I remember Jerry telling us, was it this past offseason that NFL scouts decided to add Gavin Holmes, to their scouting list. One of the players that they started to scout after watching him in practice a little bit, saying that he has improved that much. And that might have been the best rep I've seen him actually execute in the game, in a real game. And I'm not saying he hadn't had good reps before, but I know Texas wants to play more aggressive bump and run coverage on the field and the boundary side, which they are doing. And I think I even saw it in this game. They started in that Texas Tech game last season. But the ability for him not only to get his hands on the receiver, reroute the wide receiver, use the sideline. We're always talking about leverage. Use the sideline, use the extra defender. Don't let him inside you're playing bumper run coverage. He used the extra defender and then stayed on top. Then stayed kind of on that upfield shoulder that allowed him to control the receiver so that he doesn't get up behind him and stack him on those deeper routes. It was close to being one of those reps, B-Rod, where the coach tells you he's going to put that rep in his reel, and I'm putting that in my reel. I'm going to teach. It's a teachable rep now. I'm going to use this rep to teach younger kids 10, 15 years from now. This is how you play bump and run coverage. It was one of them, dude. Like a perfect rep. And so I love that about him. That Jahdae Barron interception. Just really quick. Let me just go through it because it's going to be
it's a play that deserves it, right?
Yes.
It deserves like a Dan Orlovsky ESPN kind of breakdown. So I'll do my best, but I can't do that well. And by the way, we talked about this, right? Johnny Nansen influence. They're going to play more cover 3. and more single high safety. So they're playing cover 3. It's a 2-by-1 set formation in the boundary. You got twins in the boundary. You got a single receiver to the field, and they got two back. They got 2 backs in the backfield. So essentially looking like a 20 personnel set. I think it was the H back, but they put him in the backfield. So in cover 3, you got 2 guys. They got 3 guys with the deep third, but it was Torrey Horton on the single receiver side, the number 1 guy, and he was on the field side. And there was no true number 2 to that field side. It was just him singled out. The next number 2 receiver was in the backfield. So they came down and played press on Torrey Horton. Made sense. Let's take him away, number 1. Let's take away those easy completions. And essentially, when you're on the single receiver side in cover 3, you're already cover 4. You're basically playing man-to-man. It's going to deteriorate into a man-to-man coverage anyway, and very rarely are you going to get somebody across the field. So that was their adjustment. So Malik Muhammad went down, played press on Torrey Horton on that field side, and on the 2 receiver side, and it was a cover 3 because Jalen Gilbo was on the single receiver side. Why would the nickel be on the single receiver side? So if it's man, he's going to be on the twin side. He wasn't playing the number 2 receiver. He was on the single receiver side. So told me that's got to be zone coverage. So it's cover 3, and then Ja'Day Barron doesn't fall for the simple wide receiver screen on the twin side. He knows something's up. He's a football investigator. It don't seem right. Something's up with this, man. You know it. B-Rob, you'd have been there. Like, man, something's up. It's weird, man. It's kind of strange. He knew something was up. His spidey sense was going off. So when that happened, he started to look at the formation and even looked at the opposite side of the formation and thought, find work. What did coach always tell you? You just sitting around, you ain't got no responsibility. Find work, son, find work. He went to go find work and found it all the way in the post. They call it robbing the post. One of the toughest things to do in football. When you see on the opposite side of the field, when you have all your receivers, all your work is either away or you don't have work on that number 3, that third on your side of the field, then you can look for work. Keep sinking. And eventually he sank so deep, he ended up in the post and robbed it. And by the way, and B-Rob is right, guys, Torrey Horton was open. And Malik Muhammad played really good press man, but he was open on the post route, and Makuba took the wrong angle to the post too. So if Ja'Day Barron doesn't rob that post, go back and watch it. Probably going to be a catch. Now, it probably would have been the only big play they had all day, but it would have been a big play. That is a Thorpe Award candidate play that'll be on his draft reel tape, and just shows you that guy's a football investigator, high football IQ. You don't make that play unless you got high football acumen.
What did you think of their physicality, B-Rob or Rod? What did y'all think of the DB's physicality today in run support?
I thought the whole defense as a whole was physical today. I mean, I've already mentioned Benda and Anthony Hill. You could talk about the up front, but the safeties, the way they came downhill and added themselves into the box. And listen, they've been doing that. This isn't something new. Like they did it last year, but today seemed. I made that comment early in the show. Like, we have heard all offseason about how this is an angry football team. They didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish last year. Those guys played like it today. They were there to send a message to everybody that was watching that game today. And that includes the safeties, the way they were run down here. I mean, we saw some corners make some big tackles today. There was nothing to it that said, hey, like, I'm just going to grab a leg and I'm throwing a shoulder in there. I'm throwing a head in there. Like, it don't matter. Like, I'm not only going to put you on the ground, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you a little smack while I'm at it, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch.
Hey, I've got something from CJ Vogel that was at the press conference for Steve Sarkisian. I want to get y'all's take on this because it's something we talked about. Another one. I think this is from CJ. He had a quote from Sark. I think we are a fast football team. One thing I noticed today was our team football speed. It looked like a fast team to you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it did to me too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, and listen, it's going to probably get overlooked, but I can't speak highly enough of David Benda and Anthony Hill today because – you got your up front guys, and that's going to get noticed because that's what everybody had their eyes on, right? Your DBs, that's going to get noticed because that was a point of emphasis going into the offseason. The one thing that kind of got missed in the whole deal is you don't have a Jalen Ford anymore. So how are the linebackers? How's David Benda going to be as the guy with Anthony Hill Jr.? Well, let me say this. Anthony Hill Jr. is an absolute beast. Like you're going to see some plays that he's going to make this year, and it's going to wow you. And listen, we've come to expect that after last year, right? After Alabama game last year, we've come to expect that. Like, we know that's going to happen. But David Benda today, I think, got on the radar of a lot of people because of his ability to shoot gaps, play aggressive, get downhill quick in a hurry, and not only get to the ball carrier, but get there with force. And to me, that was impressive today.
I couldn't agree more. Benda played really well. He seemed to have a feel for the game a little bit more than he has in previous years. That's just a personal assessment there. I'm not in the meetings like you guys know that. I just felt like he smelled the ball carrier a little bit. You know what I mean? And shot it when he was supposed to. He made a resounding hit on that 3rd and 2. I mean, he popped that dude. He didn't just hit it. He made that dude. I'm sure that may have rung a little bit in his ears. You know what I mean? Hey, we got a little bit from Quinn Ewers here as well from Matt, our producer. We'll let him cue that up. And then here from the starting quarterback of the Texas Longhorns, win 52-0 against Colorado State. Matt, go for it, buddy. Hold on one second. I've got something else here. Actually, they're waiting on Quinn in the locker room right now. We'll come back to that in a little bit later for us. Guys, I'm looking at it, and the Longhorns put on a little bit of a show. If you were a recruit in the stands, pretty impressive probably, right? You want to play. Look, 13 true freshmen played. 51 players played in the first half. The scoreboard said 52-0. What else do you want? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those games that looks good on the resume and looks good. And frankly, we talked about this all off season. We want Texas to come out and show that they belong in the discussion. I'm not saying that they're all the way back or any of that other stuff, but they look like the 52-0 looks like they belong in that discussion at the very least. Right, Rod?
Yeah, you want to consider the opponent. We just got to be realistic there. It's got a huge test coming up next week. But what you love about it is that you played a ton of guys. You played a lot of young guys. You just brought up all the freshmen you played. And you didn't see a drop-off, right? You didn't see a huge drop-off in, the execution, a huge drop-off in focus with a lot of penalties. You didn't see a lot of sloppy play when the younger guys came in. So they were still really effective. I mean, you can argue that Arch Manning and that guy, those guys, they put their foot on the gas as well. So I think that's what's encouraging is that with young guys, usually it's a roller coaster of the development, right? It's like you see the flashes of the peaks and you see also the valleys. You see the highs and the lows, and you're trying to get them to develop a baseline, just a consistent play. Then they earn the trust of the coaches. Football is a sport. You practice more than you play. Once you develop that based on consistency in practice, you can execute the schemes and earn the trust of the coaches. They put you out on the field. You do the same thing. It translates. With younger guys, usually, that's the struggle. These young guys they put in there, I didn't see much drop-off in execution of the scheme. I didn't see, sloppy play. That's because the backups are out there. Oh, yeah, they're giving up bombs, or they can't play bump and run coverage as aggressive. They're not making plays on the ball like the frontline starters. They were making plays. Backups, second, third string guys. Jarrett Gibson looked good. Arch Manning looked good. Ryan Wingo. Yeah, see, you laughing again. Exactly. Look, be right.
Rod, you know what? Rod Babers would be a senior. He'd say, "Hey, I need to go up against Ryan Wingo to get some rest."
Be Rob. Bobby made the comparison. I think when he first committed that he reminds him of Roy Williams. Don't he though? He had a play out there. That last play he had, the last catch, he did look like it was freaky. How much like Roy out there? That was wild, man.
Yeah, and he's just a freshman.
Yeah, they're starting to. Hey, Brian and Rod, this is what I think. They're starting to really stack classes. Kind of like they did when you guys were around.
Yes,
playing on the 40. That they're clearly stacking classes. That's why I was saying that those 7 freshmen that played early, you know what I mean?
Well, and here's the deal too. Like, and Rod hit on this. Like the fact that Coach Sark trusts 7 freshmen to play when the game's not out of hand yet. Like it's don't get me wrong, you're starting to get to that point where you're putting it away, but you hadn't put it away yet. And you're like, you know what? You put the freshman in there. I mean, dude, that's trust. That's trust.
Exactly.
Yeah, because, hey, we're going to go and get some super chats in real quick. I do want to say this because people have asked in the chat, what's the status on Jaden Blue? The quote from Steve Sarkisian in the post-game press conference was, he caught a cramp.
Exactly.
So I think that tells you. Todd Lacy here. Great win. No injuries. Everyone played. Coach's dream. Fans dream a little bit too. Brandon Huey, great meeting you. Great win today. Great seeing you, Brandon, on Bevo Boulevard and your son, Ezra. That was awesome. Glad to meet you guys in person. Loba Bread, that Quinn no-looker. We got to talk about this one. Was awesome. And those Arizona boys brought the turnover sword with them, and Billy Napier might be canned before tonight. Losing, he was. I don't know what the final score there was but losing 38-10 in your home on your home field in an opener,
it ain't good
against a guy that took a job about the same time you did at a school, 250 miles away. No bueno for his future. I would say is clearly the issue. All right, guys, what did y'all think about the Quinn no look pass? 41-17.
Ooh, that's ugly. UGLY.
Yeah, that's going to be hard. What did y'all think about the no look pass? I mean, that was pretty interesting. We see it more and more nowadays, I guess, because of Patrick Mahomes and Matt Stafford. They do a little bit of that stuff. But the linebacker had already started. He was supposed to be guarding the guy. He was already starting to cover the flat, and almost got in mixed up in the play because he was running out to the flat. What y'all think of that? Is that just hard? I mean, Brian, what do you even do if you're the defense on that? Like, is that just a different kind of crazy play?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't even notice it until they showed the replay. Like, that's how smooth it was. Like, I watched the play and I'm like, dang, he saw that receiver quick. And then I watched the receiver and he's still looking at the flat and the ball's going in. And I'm like, I had to rewind it. I mean, I rewound it and I'm like, oh, heck no. As a defensive player, you look at that and you're just like, no, that's just disrespectful. Yeah. I mean, I mean, what else is there to say about it?
That's wild, man. That's just straight up cheating. It's like a defender. I'm reading eyes, man. Eyes will take me to the play. That's what it is. And now you got these dudes who are so damn skilled and talented that they can look in one direction and yet through their peripheral vision, they can, boom, see the other guy. I mean, I saw CJ Stroud recently said he added it to his repertoire because he saw Matt Stafford do it. So now these high-level quarterbacks like Quinn, they're adding it to their repertoire, to their weapon. And, Sark was giddy about it. So I can't wait till they ask Quinn about it. Is it something that you planned on doing? Or is it something that, like, you before the game, did you already say, like, dude, I'm going to do no-look pass. I've been working on it in practice. I'm going to do it today. Or is it somewhere you like, you know what, I've been working on it, but this is the ideal situation. Like, during the game, did you decide that? Or did you decide before the game? I need to know. That's what I want to know.
Rod, you know this. It's one of those, too, where it's like, yeah, try that out. You get picked off, though, and you're going to be right up.
Exactly. That's exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's risky, man. You get picked off. Woo.
Hey, I want to say this, and it's a good comment. Jerry Hamilton had been talking about, he had heard behind the scenes, too, that Quinn had developed a good rapport with Matthew Golden. Both of those touchdown passes, that no-look pass was to Golden, Brian and Rod. So was that out that you talked about earlier, Brian, in detail. Those are two good things. This a super chat from AJJ. Colorado State just got manscaped. I think we agree with that.
Yeah, well done. Good job.
That's a good one.
I always want to involve our partners. Good job. Well done.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
We like manscaped around here, Brian. Great game from William Nish. So many players contributed, no injuries.
So off of that comment right there, Sark said something in that press conference that I caught, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but his quote was, "Everybody has a role on our team to contribute to the success of our team." To me, that is a great quote because I think too often young guys, things like that, you look at a guy like Jaden Blue who has sat around and hasn't really been utilized as much over the last couple of years. He understood that there is a role for me. And at some point, that role will become bigger and you'll have more responsibility. But every person on that team has a role. Something that I missed in order to keep that shutout, the guy that recovered the fumbled punt return. I mean, those are little things that you don't even think about. But that guy played such a intricate role on solidifying that shutout that you don't realize how big or how small your role is going to be within the grand scheme of things until it gets exploited. And I think that's a great quote by Coach Sarkisian and also on that comment there.
Absolutely was. It was Gavin Holmes, by the way, guys.
Okay.
Gavin Holmes.
Can I add?
Rod, you talked a little bit about him earlier,
maybe
turning up the volume on who he was and who he is as a player.
Yep.
Special teams is part of that. Go ahead, Rod.
Can I add to B-Rod what he said, though? And you man, that's such a great point because that philosophy that Sark has about everybody having a role to contribute, that's why you get these very unique leadership stories, these culture bearers like a Jay Witt and a Rojo, and guys who aren't even necessarily your starters, who are some of the most influential leaders on your team. And then I think then that role even starts to grow because they believe like, no, I have an impact. I have a role to play. And it's really, really important. I'm not the starter, but I don't need to be the starter to do my job and to contribute to this overall winning formula. And it's fascinating the way he's done it because back in my day, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't remember a lot of leaders who didn't start. I don't. You had to lead almost by example, and then you end up kind of being a starter or contributing, as a rotational guy, and then you became a leader. And this, I love the culture that, yes, you have your leaders, the guys that are going to start and lead by example, but you also have the guys who lead by their everyday devotion and commitment to the program, like DeAndre Moore, right? They were talking about DeAndre Moore was the first guy at practice all the time, one of the last guys to lead practice, and he ends up starting this game. I don't even know if he had a target or a catch in the game.
I didn't see a target.
Yeah. Exactly. But we already know that he's a leader on the team, right? Sark has already stated that, and that I think is also an example why he started the game. It's fascinating how Sark is really cultivating this culture because it is unique. Like I said, most of the guys that were leaders on our team, they played. We had a few guys, I think there's a Richard Hightower, my boy, who's the
Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut, exactly. Who's with the Bears right now. We had some of those great stories, right, of a guy who earned his reps, earned a scholarship, and they were great stories that inspired on the team. But to be leaders, most of the time, those guys were, your frontline starters, but not necessarily on Sark's team, man. He's showing anybody can be a leader. You just got to be committed to the cause. I love it.
Hey guys, I gotta say this. This is some good stuff as well. Too late to take the spread. 52 points. All right, there we go. Thunder Pup. Given what we've seen on defense, can say to DL recruits now that there was no letdown, even with Coach Davis. Brian liked what he saw from there. I want to add this one. I don't know if you saw this on national TV this morning, but our friend Lee Corso over in Aggie Land did not do himself any favors. I don't think he's getting free beer at Applebee's today in College Station. He picked the Longhorns to win the national championship, guys. That's Rod's all about that, but I think we gotta keep going, right?
Yeah.
This is just one game on a 12-game regular season stretch, but certainly one we want to cherish because the Longhorns really did play well this afternoon. Solid first game. This is from Justin Yarbrough. Thank you for the super chat. O-line settled down after the first quarter, Rod and Brian. The wide receiver room is very deep. We tackled very well, and a lot of young guys look good. I wish the run D was better, but ran hard. Their back ran hard. I do agree their running back looked pretty good, right? He was not a he was better than maybe you would think a Colorado State guy would look. I say that, but they're all good. I mean,
well, and I think
they're all scholarship too.
I think
there you go.
So, and they said it on the TV too that his last 3 games, man, he had 197 and 93. Today he goes out, and of course, like I said, it was on 25 carries, but has 106 yards. This is not going to be the first time you hear the name Justin Marshall. I can tell you that right now. Like, he's going to be something to deal with for the teams that play Colorado State for sure.
Yeah, I thought he was a good player. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you guys. All right, Teo shared by the end of the year, Ryan Wingo will be a freshman All-American. He had 4 for 60 today, I think. That's a heck of a year. This one from David Parcell. Rod B, you get a pat on the back. This is for Rod for that unbelievable breakdown on the Jade interception. Bravo.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, David. Really appreciate it. First super chat from Scott Sturgeon. Does today change any of your record predictions? That's actually a good one, because if you think about it, I went 10-2, but I was like, this team could be 8-4, 11-1, kind of that, that margin for error.
Yeah.
I feel good, real good about at least 9-3 right now. I've got to be honest. At the same time, Rod and Brian, y'all talked about it. You got to think about the competition as well. So we got to think about that.
No, next week. Next week we'll learn a lot more, guys. Next week we'll learn so much. That's why I love that they got the Michigan game second. Just like when Texas played Alabama last year, you'll have most of your questions answered. Not all of them, most of them answered by next week about what this team is capable of. I believe. Hey,
guys, Scott, David, thank you so much for the big super chat. Scott, thank you for your very first one. Guys, we're going to bring in now CJ Vogel. He's live at the stadium. Just got out of the press conference with Steve Sarkisian. CJ, what were your takeaways from Sark? We heard his opening statement. He sounded pretty excited.
Yeah, he absolutely was, and why shouldn't you be, right? You just left home with a 52-0 win. Week 1, a bit of a change-up from Colorado State this week, right? I think we all expected Colorado State to come in, throw the ball around, play pretty quickly, and Sarkisian said, he's proud of his guys. They did not throw the ball around. They didn't really have an opportunity to, and they didn't play quickly, right? Colorado State was kind of moving that game clock, play clock under about 5 seconds for each snap. And he said, you know what? They adapted. They played well. The one thing that I thought Sarkisian mentioned that stood out to me was there's speed everywhere. And we've talked about this in the summer. We've talked about that in the spring. It's going to be, and it looked today like it's going to be Sarkisian's fastest team here at Texas. Sark mentioned that today. He said our players, when they have the ball in their hand, they gain ground very quickly. And defensively, you see Hats get to the ball, even when some of those rush attempts kind of leak out, and you see at times those runs get to about 5 to 7 to 8 yards, kind of squeaking out through that defensive line. He said, listen, we got guys rallying to the football, and I'm pleased with that. Overall, can't be upset with a 52-0 performance at home. Sarkisian was in a good mood, and he certainly let us know about it during his press conference today.
CJ, anything from Quinn Ewers or any of the other players that you saw and heard from at today's post-game presser?
Yeah, Quinn actually did confirm that second touchdown to Matthew Golden was a no-look. He said he was going to go to the flat. Now, the corner of his eye, he did see Matthew Golden kind of opening that quick hitch. So, he kind of gave him a little woohoo, that little Magic Johnson winning time right there. So that was good from Quinn. Of course, the thing I thought that was really interesting is he said right away, he felt very confident and comfortable and clean in that pocket today. And I know that he had the sack. I know that he had the interception on which he was scrambling up, trying to make a play. He actually said he was trying to throw that football away. But he said he felt very clean in the pocket today, and the offensive line played very confidently today. He said he felt clean. So overall, gotta love the confidence from Quinn after one game. And of course, that line will be tested next week. That's for sure.
CJ, thanks for the stopping by. In the post game, we'll have more from you tomorrow. We'll have rapid reactions as well as the offensive and defensive post game grades. Then we also have some other news and notes that we'll be delivering. Appreciate you, buddy. You have a good one. And he will also be reporting on TexasFootball.com. Make sure you guys check out our website. Subscribe. It's $39.95 a year. Guys, we don't hold back on our YouTube channel and only put information here and not on the website or vice versa. we're pretty much free going with that. The website for us is really about community and you guys coming out and joining us and being Longhorn fans like we did today at the tailgate, that sort of stuff. That was really, really fun. Appreciate everybody that stopped by. Hey, I will say this. I want to say this about JJ. The Texas current and past QBs all looking good. Card went off today. Murphy had a nice game as well at Duke on Thursday night. If you've been coached by Sark, you're good. Hey, Hudson Card at one time. Hudson Card, I don't know what he finished with. At one time today, he was 24 of 25.
Damn.
I mean, you guys are
impressive. Yeah.
That's a good one. We have a couple more that I want to get to, and then we'll get back to discussing the game. D-Money can't get money. Says next week is going to be about Smash Mouth football. I can't wait. Y'all agree? Y'all agree? I think we're all on the same page. Michigan's going to load up, right, and come at you. How do you think Texas might fare based on a little bit of what you saw, or is it still show me time for Texas?
I think for me, it's going to be, once again, a good test for the interior defensive line. You know, Michigan is known for having big guys up front on the offensive line. They're going to try to establish the run game. You know that's what you're going to get out of them. Offensively, man, I really like what Texas did this first week because I think that's what they're going to need to do going into the big house against Michigan. You're going to have to hit some of those intermediate routes. You're going to have to get some quick passes going and really and truly wear down those guys up front. Don't allow them to kind of lean on the offensive line. I think the offensive line can hold up against those guys up front that Michigan has. Yep. But at the same time, like, you really don't want to test that. You want to give them guys the opportunity to kind of wear them down by having to make them run sideways, make them run up and down the field. You know, do some of these flare passes, get the ball out to Jaden Blue into the flat. You know, make them guys run around to where it makes it easier on your O-line to kind of bully them around late in the game, where you can establish a run game and kind of wear them down.
Yep.
I'm hopeful the offense is able to do something against Michigan. That is the one thing, because Michigan can be, and we talked about this a little bit, they can be a completely suffocating defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they will be, right? But they've proven that they can be. And they're going to be well coached and out there. All right, Notre Dame A&M getting kicked off. They're playing right now. Hey, that's going to be a good one. We're going to be watching that game. I know everybody's going to get back to the TV, try to watch a little of that today. That's going to be fun. I had this one, and I really think that this is a fair comment from Bobby Petronic. NFL talent level QBs in year 3 under the dark light to have tables elevating. Y'all think, you guys have played against first-year quarterbacks. You know, what does it mean for Texas to have a third-year starter quarterback? Because he does. I mean, Quinn looked better today. It's the most impressive outing as a first-game starter. Much better than Rice a year ago, right? Much cleaner. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you have thoughts about the third-year starting quarterback?
I think it's got to be a comfort level, right? Sark, I remember Coach Herman telling me this about Sam Ehlinger after his going on his third year in the offense, that Sam Ehlinger would reveal things within the Tom Herman offense that Tom Herman himself was unaware of. Like, he would point out stuff that I didn't realize about my own offense. And I'd go, that's actually something we need to consider. We probably should do that. So the ownership of the offense, I think, is what you get in year 3 with Quinn. It's his offense as much as it is Sark's. And Sark wants that, by the way. Sark wants him to take ownership of the offense. So that's why you expect such tremendous growth in that third year, is because, you know, he shouldn't have, at this point, there shouldn't be any part of that offense that he's unfamiliar with. And I think that's what you're starting to see, and you're going to see that more and more throughout this season. And him and Sark, right? The compatibility between those two, they've been together for 3 years now. Now they know how each other communicates. Sark knows exactly what Quinn likes. He knows how to get him in a groove, knows how to get him in a rhythm. He knows when Quinn may be, struggling a little bit, if he's spiraling, what to do with Quinn to kind of curtail that. So I just think now in the third year, this is the year that Colt McCoy and Vince Young, their 4th year in college, 3rd year playing, they kind of ascended. And that's the expectation for Quinn, to ascend this year.
Got to say this. Y'all know how many times today Texas punted? Once.
One. Yeah.
Wow. Right? not bad.
Yeah.
We'll take that for the first game. Yeah. That I've seen different games. Brian, by the way, I think you have a fan. Robison was levitating an 04 blocking machine.
Hey, man.
I can't let y'all go. We're close to wrapping it up here with our post-game show. Thank you to Yingling. I can't wrap it up, though, before talking about Arch Manning and his performance. I know there's going to be a lot going on. I almost purposely didn't mention it much because I didn't want, some sort of narrative to get out there that this was all about, he looked great, etc. But Brian, I thought he looked pretty darn good today. What did you think of the young man from New Orleans?
Well, listen, we talked about it the other day about how good he looked in the spring game.
Yep.
He got some live action today, and he went 5 of 6 for 95 yards. He averaged 15.8 yards of completion. Okay. I think his QB rating was like 273 or something crazy like that. Yeah. Going back to what Rod just said a while ago, a quarterback going into his fourth year out of high school, going into his third year, you see light and day difference. Well, let me tell you what else let you see light and day difference is when you got a guy that's on your ass and says, hey, if you don't get it going, like I'm going to go ahead and take that from you. And that's one thing that Texas fans have a luxury. I know there's no quarterback controversy here. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is iron sharpens iron. And when you have two guys that compete the way that they are right now, and you can clearly tell they are competing, but there is some camaraderie there. They're not holding anything back. Arch is telling him everything that he sees. Quinn is telling Arch everything that he sees. And you've got two quarterbacks on the same team that are competing that way, but also helping each other out, being kind of their extra set of eyeballs. Oh, that is a special thing to have in a quarterback room.
I loved his playmaking ability outside the pocket. The first pass to Jonte Cook, he seemed to find him kind of not unlike what he did a year ago with his first completion to Jonte, right? A roll right, and Jonte kind of sat down against Tech. Yeah, same play, type of play, and he did it again. And then when he got out of the pocket in the red zone, I don't even know what to tell you what he did with that. That was one of those plays where he just may be a little something special. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. Yeah, he's got stuff he can coach. He's got stuff he can't coach. He reminds me of that. I brought this up earlier. That's a great. You remember this, Brian, from Matt Brown. He used to tell that story about him, the late great Darren King Arroyo, Willie Nelson, and George Strait on a football field. It felt like a crazy joke. And he always tells the story about the it quality. Coach came up to him, said, "Coach, I want to be like you." Coach Arroyo said, "Hey, if you have it, then you'll make it. If you don't have it, you won't make it. And if you don't know what it is, you ain't got a chance to make it." And the coach looked bewildered and stupefied, didn't even say anything to Coach Brown or Coach Royal. He didn't say anything to George Strait or Willie Nelson. He just walked off. And then Coach Royal looked at everybody and said, "Hell, he ain't got it." And I feel like that sums up Arch Manning in a nutshell. He's got it. And it don't take long to see if he's got it. Every time we've seen him, whether it be in the games last year, spring game, and now, it could be just a small sample size or a much bigger sample size. Every Longhorn fan and everybody who's a football fan agrees, yeah, he's got it. And he's got it. And he's got it, a lot of it. So I think that's kind of what sums it up for me, man. And that's why his improvisation, his second reaction ability, when the play breaks down, he's still just as good. He's just as good in the framework of the Sark offense, operating on time and the rhythm of the offense. But when the play breaks down, he's still able to make plays. It's like, what? So that's why he's got that it quality, guys.
Let me sum this up for you, Rod. His last name is Manning. And he has mobility.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Well done. There you go. Well done. You're right.
He has mobility, and his last name is Manning.
Manning with mobility. What the hell?
As a guy that's played against him, right there. Hey, I think we're closing in here a little bit. Jedi barbecue. I think this is an idea. What a complete ASF game all around. We don't usually allow that kind of stuff on here with the comment with the that, but it's an acronym. So I agree with it. So I'm going to let it go on this one today. There's another couple of things here that they talked about in the chat, guys, that I just completely agree with. Talking about Michael Taft having a good game. Mo Blackwell. Hey, I thought that was a fumble that Mo Blackwell caused. I don't know if y'all remember that third down hit.
Yes, it was. I saw it.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, there were a number of different plays, and this is really what you guys were both getting at, I think, and as well as the folks in the chat too, is it felt complete. It felt like it wasn't just one or two dudes out there making this train roll down the tracks. It was a lot of them. And I will add this. I would put the coaches on that track too today. Thought Sark called a good game. Yeah, I thought the defense came to play and had a good. I mean, they allowed less than 100 yards passing.
11 first downs. Right? They gave up 11 first downs.
And I want to think about this too. Like, you think about how good this Texas team was last year. Rice was not a runaway.
No.
Wyoming was tight in the fourth quarter. Like, this was something different. And yes, it is the first game. I do believe that this Colorado State football team is better than what they advertised today. And I think you'll see that as the year goes on. But 52-0, I don't care who you play. Like, that is putting it on tape.
Yep.
And that is something that I have seen a change already this year. Is last year, the teams that you felt like they should have really, really just waxed the floor with, it didn't happen. Like, it was still a win, and it was still a big win, but it was late. It was second half. I mean, it wasn't one of those that first half it was over. Like, this was over. Like, they put it away and said, we're done. Like, it's time to start getting ready for Michigan.
Yep.
I'm just I gotta say this because I completely agree with it. Texas actually got 2 holding calls on its opponent. When's the last time that happened? Goodbye, Big 12 refs.
Big 12. Damn right.
My comment is that. All right, I want to do one last read here for our sponsor. Guys, we really appreciate all of our sponsors, every single one of them. They make this possible for Rod, Brian, myself, and others here, including Jerry Hamilton, CJ Vogel, Bob Shipley, just about everybody on staff, Blake Monroe, too. Flight is the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an upscale light beer designed to elevate the customer experience with more taste and just 4.2 grams of carbs. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling. I think I'm getting ready to go have one and watch a little Aggie football. Hopefully we might witness some Aggie tears. I'm just saying, I'm one of those guys that doesn't mind it. But this was a tremendous all-around game for the Longhorns. No two ways about it. 52-0. Great first effort from Steve Sarkisian and his crew out there, from the offense to the defense. Punted one time, and it was the first possession of the game, by the way. The only other time they didn't score was when they were effectively trying to run out the clock and ran up the middle 3 times and then threw it on 4th down. I mean, that's pretty complete. So really good stuff. We appreciate you guys very much. I also appreciate our producer behind the scenes, Matthew Hutchison. He was out there today in the heat in long pants. Like, you realize you're in Austin. You don't come in long pants in the middle of a 2:30 game, bro. But he was out there, everybody ready. He's also behind the scenes now on this, as well as the watch with us. I also want to say thank you to Brian Robison. Thank you, Brian, for joining us here. Todd Babers, appreciate you as always. We will have more tomorrow morning early, probably around 7 a.m. We're going to get at it after it, have some rapid reactions, and then go on and talk a little bit about the offensive grades, defensive grades, and anything else we come up with. Probably going to talk about all those freshmen playing, because that was eye-opening for me as someone that follows recruiting so closely. For Brian, for Rod, and for Matt Hutchison, congrats to the 2024 Texas Longhorns. Start off the season the right way. Hook 'em, everybody. Thank you all for joining.